whether you're caring for an elderly relative or perhaps a family member with a mental health issue. I mean, we can all become carers at some stage of our lives. And I think the fact of, as a professional carer, there is, boundary and a distance. When you're a personal carer and it's a family member, the dynamic can be very different. So that is how I would see that. And equally, what matters most in self-care doesn't change for either situation. However, I think for families where there is a child with additional needs, the biggest thing is self-compassion, and to be able to cut yourself some slack, because we have had personal experience of this within the family where there were late diagnoses for autism with a niece and a nephew. And what I found with their parents was the struggle that they hadn't noticed. They didn't realize there was a lot of masking going on, where they didn't realize the discomfort that the child was in for a long time, and then the guilt around that. So those things can be managed. And that's where I think having social support and social networks, and that's what's amazing about ISCOM, is that clearly they've already identified that, because they're creating a community where you don't feel alone, and there is that essence of common humanity and common experience. And I'm sure, even though it's individual, there are common themes around struggles, and equally the strengths, that it's a strengths-based approach, and looking at what's amazing about your child and waiting for the world to catch up with neurodiversity. I think that's the biggest struggle, that systems are so far behind. So for those carers, I think it's the same thing, as you have to have a focus outside of that. You have to have a passion and a purpose in your life. You have to continue to care for yourself. I think what could really work is like a plan for when you or your family member becomes emotionally dysregulated. So that can happen to any of us. And to have this plan in place, set it out when you're both calm and in a good place. But you can look at the triggers. What are the physical, mental, emotional triggers? What induces overwhelm or an anxiety-provoking reaction, and then what works in the aftermath of that. And so they can be examples like, you need another human there present to help you co-regulate, or actually you need to be alone, whether you need music or silence or punching a pillow, taking a breath, taking that walk for parents. And I think it's great to have those plans in place, that you are already prepared. And if you can co-plan with the young person or the adult, that these are going to be how we will cope with the emotional dysregulation.